Hi everyone. So recently I did a redraw of an old painting that I did back in 2016. And I wanted to do that because I had been feeling a little bit stuck with my art, especially my illustrations. I'd been feeling like I was stagnating or possibly even losing some of the skill that I used to have. So I wanted to do this redraw mainly so I could see in tangible terms that I was in fact making progress even though it didn't feel like it whatsoever. And I think that's a feeling that we all deal with a ton, especially as artists. Just feeling like we're not really progressing as fast as we want to, or maybe feeling like we're not progressing at all whatsoever. And I think a lot of the times that can be purely psychological, like we're actually making progress, but we just can't see it, and I'm going to talk about that later in the video. But I also do think sometimes you're not improving as quickly as you want to be, and that's maybe because you are approaching things wrong. So that's why I wanted to make a video on this subject. I've actually made one in the past. About 4 years ago, I made a video on how to improve your art. And while I do think that was a fairly good video, it was decent, I also said some things I don't necessarily agree with anymore, and I also have a lot of new perspective on this after working as a professional for the past few years. So, yeah, that's what we're talking about today, improvement. And I wanted to start off by showing you guys a drawing I made when I was 6. So this isn't the oldest drawing I could find, but this is the first drawing I found where I actually tried to draw something that's a real thing, and I didn't just draw some random stuff from my brain. So if you don't speak Norwegian, the text there, the tiny text on the drawing says goat. So this was my attempt at drawing a goat at 6 years old. And as you can clearly see, this is just proof that I was born to be an amazing artist, because just look at those forms, those shapes. This is like a photorealistic goat. You can just see that this drawing is just brimming with natural talent and skill. No, it's a terrible goat. It's a horrible, horrible drawing, and it looks nothing like a goat. Of course, because we all start out pretty bad at art. That's just a fact. You have to be really, really bad at something in order to get good at it, and you kind of have to be bad for a while you're figuring stuff out. Which I talked about a lot in one of my other videos, the Your Art Sucks, But That's Okay video. But my point is, how do you get from this stage of trying to draw a goat and then it just not even resembling any animal that's known to man, into what you're seeing on the screen right now? How do you bridge that huge gap? And now I know most of you are starting from a much better place than this old drawing here, but I really wanted to include this because I do think it's easy to look at the art of professionals, people on social media, ArtStation, look at their work and just feel this kind of insurmountable defeat where you look at their work and you look at your own work and it's just like you just can't see any way that you will ever live up to their amount of skill. And I know this because I've felt this so much, and I still feel it to this day sometimes if I'm having a really bad day. It's very easy to look at skilled people and forget that we all started out bad, and what separates those really good people from us is simply that they've just they've spent more time, more effort, and they never gave up. And that's the biggest thing, really, that they just never stopped trying to improve, and then they got to where they are. It's not magic or talent or anything of the sort. It's just work, and it's smart work, which is also something I will talk about in a second. But first, I actually wanted to show you a couple more of my old paintings that are a bit more representative of what you're seeing on the screen today. So this right here is pretty much my first digital painting ever. I think I had done a few doodles just to like get familiar with the tools before this, but this was the first thing I finished, I'm pretty sure. And I did it using this super old, crusty, tiny Wacom 1 tablet that I had inherited from my sister, because she used to do like digital vector art. And then when she got sick of that, she kindly gave me her tablet. So that's how I got my start. This is from 2011. So I would have been probably 14 or 13. And I was really obsessed with Naruto at this stage, as you can probably tell. And while I think you could say that this is pretty good for the age I was at, I think you could say that and it would be pretty accurate, as it's obviously still not a good drawing. It's cute, but technically it's just a mess. The line work is super scratchy, the blending is almost non-existent, and the coloring is just not great. And this is kind of interesting because up until this point, I had been, like, in between the goat drawing and this point, I had been drawing constantly. Drawing was my favorite thing to do, and I would just, like, any spare moment I had, I would be doodling, especially in class. I would, like, get in trouble with the teachers because I was always drawing. And, like, I got this reputation of being, like, the kid who's good at drawing, and, like, all my classmates were always, like, super impressed with what I was doing, because I was drawing so much that I think I just I got a lot better just through my, like, obsessive sketching. But then I got into manga, and I started watching Naruto, and then I tried drawing Naruto, and this was the first time I realized I wasn't as good as I wanted to be, because I looked at my drawing of Naruto, and then I looked at the drawings of Naruto in the show and by the author, and I was like, this looks nothing alike. Like, this doesn't even look like Naruto. This is just some horrible abomination, and it's just not capturing what I want to capture at all. And that's the point when I realized I had to get better, because I wanted to be able to capture those things properly. So this is a drawing that I probably wasn't even happy with at the time I finished it. Even though I didn't have a very good eye at the time, I could tell that this is not the level I wanted to be at. And I think that's a good feeling to have, and I will talk about that in a little bit. But I think the acceptance of your shortcomings combined with the kind of drive to get rid of those is really what can propel you pretty quickly in your journey towards getting better. But you can't only have that. You need a few other things as well to make everything work. So here's just a couple more drawings that I made this same year, I think. 2011. As you can see, I was deep into my manga phase. I was obsessed with all things anime, and because I enjoyed it so much, I would just obsessively draw fan art. And I want to point out here that this is just a fraction of what I was drawing at the time. I was finishing paintings every, I want to say, week. Like, I would always I would draw a little bit during the week, mostly in school, and then pretty much every weekend I would just sit and draw. Like, I didn't have much of a social life, but I was already kind of building up a lot of mileage in my work. And I think that's another key thing, that I was just drawing a ton. Like, I was just having fun with it and finishing pieces constantly. And I think that's a big trap that people fall into, where they're like, a lot of people come to me and they kind of complain, maybe isn't the right word, but they express dissatisfaction at the speed that they're improving at, and they're just asking me like, how can I improve more? And then they send me a link to their gallery, and it's like they finished one painting last year. And every time I'm just like, I look at it and I just wonder, how do you expect to get better at something when you're not doing it? You really have to just keep working on it, and if you don't, it's not going to get better. I know it can be demotivating to sit down and draw when you know, like, whatever you're going to end up with, it's not going to look the same as the idea you had in your head. But you really have to just do it anyway, and find solace in the fact that you can learn something from every bad drawing you finish. There's like that expression, you need to do 1,000 bad drawings to start doing good ones. Like, you have to get them out of your system. And it's so true, because you really have to just go through all the mistakes, so you get to a point where you can filter those out and actually produce something good. You can't do that without all the experience of previous failures. And by the way, I made a video on this like 3 months ago, if you want to check it out. But yeah, you just got to keep doing it, and that's how I was improving as quickly as I was. I think I was drawing like crazy, and I was also conscious of the fact that I wanted to get better. So I was trying my hardest with every painting, even back then when I was so young. I was trying to see, like, okay, what can I improve in the next one? How can I get better? So I actually have a ton more from 2011. I finished... I'm not going to show you all of it, because I just don't want that to take up this entire video. But I finished at least 20 paintings from what I can see here, what I've gathered up. I finished at least 20 like illustrations that year, which is more than one a month. And I think this year, where I was kind of just drawing like crazy, kind of laid the foundation for how quickly I was able to improve later on. Because that mileage is so important. But anyway, let us jump into 2012, which is where I was starting to venture more into the kind of stuff I do today. I was moving away from the manga. I was more into games, and I kind of, at this point, I had figured out that concept artist was a job that you could have, and that you could like get paid to draw stuff for games, and I had decided that that's what I wanted to do. So at this point, I was kind of obsessed with drawing so much that I could be good enough to get a job in those industries by the time I finished high school. So I shifted to a lot more of a semi-realistic style, with a much less of a focus on like line work and stuff. And honestly, it's not terrible. But I remember when I was working on these pieces, I think they both took me like 25 hours, which they shouldn't have given the amount of detail they have. But I was really struggling because I just wanted everything to be perfect. Like I wasn't gonna settle for something looking not right. Like if I was working on the painting and there was something that wasn't like up to my standards, the standards I could have with my current perception skill, I wasn't gonna just leave it. I was gonna fix that. And again, I think that like willingness to fix my mistakes and just keep working on it is another thing that really helped, because it's all about that mindset of being willing to put in the time and effort to make not only individual pieces better, but to make your portfolio better as a whole. You really have to have this mentality where you're not gonna just let something go. If you know there's a bad part of your painting, you're gonna fix it, even though it might take you an hour. You're not gonna just leave that in, and that's another way you improve, by fixing your mistakes as you see them. Because if you just let those go, you're never gonna learn like why that was a mistake in the first place. You're just gonna know that looks bad, and you're gonna feel bad about it probably because you didn't do your best. So I would recommend to always, if there's something that's bothering you about a piece, to always put in the extra effort to fix it. Ask a friend, ask a critique group online if they have any opinions, if you're feeling stuck, but always put in the effort. Because improvement isn't something that just happens magically over time as you draw more. It's not like you can just draw 20 drawings and automatically be better. You'll probably improve a little bit, but you will improve so much more if you're drawing those with a critical mindset. And obviously you don't want to be so critical that you are spiraling into self-loathing. This is another thing that I've said a million times before. You want to keep it to a rational level, right? If you're painting something and the face looks bad, that doesn't mean you're a terrible artist and a bad person. It just means that the face needs to be fixed. It's really important to be able to separate yourself from your work in that regard. Like if you make a thing that you're not happy with, take that as an opportunity to do better next time, instead of an opportunity for you to kind of indulge in this self-hatred, because that's not productive. It's not good for your mental health, and it's also not good for your improvement. And then here we come to 2013, which is when I drew the first version of this painting that I'm working on right now. This is my thief from Guild Wars 2. I feel like you can really just see like whatever I was obsessed with at the time when you look at my old work. So I was over the anime, but now I was fucking waist deep in a Guild Wars 2 addiction. And my way of making at least something productive come of that was to paint my main, which was a thief. I loved playing her. And so I made this painting. And I was trying, with the background, I was trying to go for the, if you've seen the promotional art and the concept art for Guild Wars, they have like a very painterly, textured look to all the art, and it's gorgeous. It's such good art direction. And I attempted that for the background, and it's just lazy. Like I just kind of like willy-nilly threw some brushstrokes in there, and I was like, yeah, I guess this is fine. I don't think I was even happy with it at the time, but I just kind of settled for this weird mess. And then there's also the anatomy. Like she's skinny as a rail, but then she has these like balloon tits that look so fake, and like her hands don't even look like hands. They look like these weird stumps, and it's just not a great drawing. And I think this was one of the ones where I don't think I tried as hard as I normally did. I think I got kind of lazy with this one, and that's why I don't like it, because I can tell that I didn't really put in the care that I put into other things. And this was actually the start of a time period where I didn't really improve as much as I had in the past. Like I had this, I'm gonna be honest, like I had this time period of like 2 years when I was 12 that was just like I was just improving a ton. Like I look back at that stuff and I'm impressed with myself because I was working so hard and I was really trying to improve with everything. But then here I think I got kind of lazy. I probably got a bit cocky and I don't feel like I tried as hard. And then we enter 2014, which is where I first got my wrist tendonitis. So I've talked about this before. I got it from what was probably years of overuse, to be honest. I mean, I was sitting working with this tiny tablet for hours and hours and hours every weekend, and I don't think that was good for my wrist health. And then I had this one project in school that just put it over the line, and I was told by my doctor that I shouldn't draw until the pain stopped, basically. So for like a good 9 months, I barely drew anything. I snuck in some work here and there, but it was just like I would draw for 10 minutes and I would just be in pain. So I just couldn't really do it. And my progress slowed down a lot, but I kept consuming information about art, even though I wasn't drawing. I think I was still progressing because I was watching all of these level up sessions in particular. I might have mentioned them before. If you haven't heard of them, they are this YouTube channel. They're not really active anymore, but it was these 3 really good concept artists, Wojtek Fus, Darek Zabrocki, and Jonas Dero. I'm not really sure how his name is pronounced, but anyway, there are these 3 concept artists who today are doing like amazing stuff in their careers, and they would just have these really long videos where they would either interview all these really cool concept artists and they would just share knowledge, or they would have actual lessons on particular painting subjects, and I would just consume these videos like crazy, and I was learning so much even though I wasn't drawing, and I was watching Saikra and Ahmed Aldori and Mark Crilly. And yeah, I was just taking in all this information even though I couldn't really draw. So that's one way that you can, if you don't have that much time to draw, or you just want to learn more in general, obviously seek out tutorial videos or videos like this one, where it's more just like talking about life as an artist and how the different mindsets you can have around your art, because I think it's really important to not just watch videos on perspective or color theory, but to also watch videos on mindset and techniques for good working habits and stuff like that. You can't really ignore that side of it because that is essential. But anyway, so I got my wrist tendonitis, and things kind of slowed down from there. But eventually I was able to get back to drawing a lot. That was thanks to just having that really long break. I had like a year or 2 where I just barely drew anything. I was very careful, and I also started exercising. I started having a much better diet, and I just got healthier overall, and eventually my wrist was in a state where I could draw a little bit without pain. It was still bothering me. It's still bothering me to this day, as you'll know if you've seen my video on it, but it got better, so I was able to draw again. And at this stage I was able to start doing a lot of commissions. So I had been doing commissions since I was 13, which like I was doing these terrible DeviantArt commissions for like DeviantArt points, so I was probably making like maybe $1 a month off of those commissions, and it was terrible. But at this point I was able to start like actually doing proper ones, and I was doing a lot. And again, I had this mindset that I need to do a really good job for all of these clients, because first of all, I want to do a good job. I want them to be happy with my work. But I also want to show them that I am a good, reliable person to work with. And I also want to just improve because I want to get to better places than this. I want to work for all these huge companies that only hire artists that are really, really, really good. And to get there, I need to get better with every painting. That was kind of like my mantra: better with every painting and better every day. Because if you can do that, if you can, with every painting, even just tiny, tiny incremental improvements, like if you were lazy with the hand on one painting, with the next one, don't be. Try harder. And then you can kind of stack all these tiny wins that you gain with each painting. And then you look back 2 years later and you realize all those small improvements really added up. And that kind of leads us to where we are today. So I was a freelance illustrator and concept artist for about 3 or 4 years. And again, with that, I was always making sure I was giving my clients the very best I could. Always just trying my hardest and giving 110% effort. While also doing a lot of work on myself mentally. Like I was doing a lot of meditation and also just doing a lot of reflection and a lot of critical thinking about what's important to me about art. And when I look at art that I like, what do I like about it? If I look at bad art, what don't I like about it? Like, what's not working here? And just always asking all these questions to improve my observation skills. And I would do this thing, I think I talked about it in my last video on this probably. I would even do this thing where I would look at things, and if I found something that was beautiful in real life, I would kind of just stop and kind of try to take a mental image of it, and ask myself, like, why is this working so well? Like, what's happening with the lighting here that's so beautiful? And like, if there was ever like a particular mood outside, I would ask, like, what's creating this mood? Like, what's the color palette? What's happening here? And I would look at things and I would try to color pick them with my brain. I would like ask, like, what's this color here? What's actually happening? And kind of just take in all this information that I would then use in my art. I think I would just describe it as being very awake and very aware of what's happening in your own head and in the world around you, and taking all that and funneling it into your art and using that to make your art better. I think if you go through life not paying attention to these things, kind of just seeing good art and just thinking, oh, that's cool, and not asking yourself like why it's cool, and not trying to see like what techniques the artist used, I think you're wasting a lot of opportunities to learn. So that's a really big tip, just being present and aware of what's happening around you. But yeah, so I was a tangent. I was working as a freelancer for a good few years there, and just working like crazy, just producing a bunch of paintings. Again, just getting a lot of mileage in. And then I got a job at Vela, which is a game studio in Dublin, which is where I live now. And I've been working there for the past 2 years, and also learning a lot there because I just keep getting thrown into these scenarios that I've never really experienced before, and like I'm having to draw and design these things that I've never drawn before in my life. And it's really cool because it forces me to get out of my comfort zone in a big way. And that also was happening a lot when I was freelance with commissions. I would get asked to do a commission that I would never have even deigned to do in my free time. But then here's this person like offering you money for it, and you're like, okay, I'll try. And I would paint all these like really complex things, and I would really have to challenge myself to get them done. And that stuff is also so important if you want to get better. You can't just kind of rest on your laurels and just keep doing the same thing that you've been doing. Like, one thing I'll see a lot is people just keep doing portraits or like paintings of characters just standing in like a void with like no background. And that's all good if that's what you want to do, if that's what brings you joy. That's great, honestly. But if that's what you're doing, then you come to me and ask me how you can improve, I'm gonna tell you, you have to do more. You have to do new things that you haven't tried before, and you have to push yourself, and do things that are hard and complicated and uncomfortable. Because if you never do that stuff, you will never be forced to learn something. I think having to learn stuff on the fly, on the job, is really one of the most efficient ways to do it if you have that option available to you. Like, it's honestly, it's hard to self-motivate yourself to do stuff that's uncomfortable. It's hard. I'm very familiar with this. When I do personal paintings, a lot of the time I will unintentionally reduce the scope because I'll have this cool idea and I'll be like, oh, but that's like multiple characters, it's a background, it's gonna take me 2 months and it's gonna be very hard and I kind of just don't feel like it, so I'll just do this simple thing instead. And like I do that too. We all do it. But then when it's in a professional capacity, you kind of have to. So you're forced to get better, essentially, which can be very stressful, I will say, because you're really like, if you fail, it's kind of really bad. but that makes you try even harder, so you don't fail. And again, that's how improvement happens. So yeah, that's kind of a very quick overview of the steps I've taken to get to where I am today, from being a 6-year-old who couldn't draw a goat. I can say confidently that today I can draw a goat, so that's a win in my book. But I would need reference for it. If I didn't have reference, it would probably come out looking scarily similar to the old one. Because I've said it 100 times and I'll say it again, reference is important and we all need it. Anyway, that's my daily reference plug. So with that out of the way, I want to take a moment to kind of condense all the stuff I just said into a few points, because I think like I've been saying, I think improving your art is about so much more than simply sitting down and drawing. You can draw 14 hours a day for a year and really not make much progress, which sounds crazy, but I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I've had people say that they're putting in crazy amounts of hours and there's just not any improvement happening. And I think that's happening because their mindset is not where it needs to be. And this is because drawing is about a lot more than just drawing. And different artists will define this in different ways. I don't think there's any like one answer, but the way I would break it down is there is technical skill, which is simply, you putting the pen to the paper and drawing. That's technical skill, knowing perspective, color theory, all these things. Then there's observational skill or perception skill, which is your ability to observe things and observe them accurately. And what does that mean? Like, we all have eyes, so we should all be able to observe things, right? But no, actually, there are a lot of complexities in just what you see around you. And it takes a lot of training to actually get to a point where you can see all of those complexities and you can judge them properly. Like, if you show an artist who is just starting out a painting that has really bad anatomy, for example, and you ask them, is there something wrong with this? That person might just say, no, it looks perfect, because they're not able to, like, they don't know what proper anatomy looks like yet, so they won't be able to distinguish the two. So that's observational skill, and I think this one really lives in, like, a very close relationship with the technical skill. Like, I really think these two skills are equally important, and if they're not kind of aligned, that's when stuff starts not really working. And this is called the perception gap, which I'm pretty sure was coined by Psychra. By the way, if you guys aren't watching Psychra, his art videos are incredible. Watching his stuff and how he talks about not just art itself, but his mindset around art is really what made a lot of things click for me personally. Just the way he verbalizes a lot of feelings that I think most of us have about art is pretty amazing. So go watch his videos if you haven't already. But yeah, so he coined this term in one of his videos, and it's basically how your observational skill and your technical skill are usually not lined up. So sometimes your observational skill will be a lot better than your technical skill. Your technical skill will still be lagging behind. So you can judge things very kind of harshly and you can judge them well, but your technical skill hasn't caught up yet. So you look at your own art and you're like, wow, this is just a piece of shit, because I can see all the mistakes, but I don't know how to fix them yet. I don't have the technical skill to actually go in there and do a better job at this, but I can tell that it's wrong. And then there's the opposite, where your technical skill will be pretty good, but then your observational skill is lagging behind. So you can draw these pretty cool things and you feel great about yourself because you're almost like not able to view them properly yet. So you're not too critical about it because you feel like you're doing like such an amazing job. And that's when you feel like that confidence boost in your art and you feel like you're killing it. That will happen at the times where your observational skill is maybe lagging a little bit behind. And then when these two are overlap perfectly, that's the sweet spot. That's where you want to be, but it's where you will rarely be, which is where you can draw stuff and be very satisfied with it, but you can still see mistakes and you can still see areas where you can improve, but it's not such a horrible feeling as when your technical skill is really far behind your observational skill. Personally, in my art journey, I feel like my observational skill is always a bit further developed, which I think is a pretty key thing, honestly, to how quickly I've been able to improve, because I've always been able to look at my art critically, and I've always been able to kind of suss out the areas that I need to work on. And so my observational skill has been this kind of like pull, this constant pull on my technical skill, and they've kind of just progressed together with the observational skill always a bit further behind, or further along. So that's why I've improved so quickly. I think that's also why I'm never really happy with my art, because I'm able to judge it too well. Like, I'm just too good at judging things. But I'm okay with that. I think that's a good place to be in. But, so, how do you train your observational skill? Like, we all know how to train your technical skill. Just draw, right? But your observational skill can be a bit trickier. So, like I mentioned earlier, you can look around at the world and just try to pick apart what's happening at any moment. Just while you're watching this video, take your eyes off the screen, look around your room and see if is there any interesting lighting happening, or simply like, if I look at the color of my wall with the light environment that it's in right now, what color is that actually? Like, I know it's yellow or whatever, but like, what color is it really? Just try to look around you constantly and just ask yourself these questions. And then you can also train your observational skill by doing photo studies. Trying to imitate what's happening in a photo is a really good way of testing yourself and really seeing. I mean, it requires a lot of technical skill as well, but it's a really nice way to practice both of them at the same time. And photo studies are something that I really swear by for improvement. I still do them to this day because I feel like they're just so incredible for learning things and learning them quickly. It's like my main method of practice. Sometimes people ask me like if I do like all these like weird practice methods, and I'm just like, no, I just do photo studies. I just do photo studies and I look at the world around me, and I will watch videos on art theory every now and again, but it's mainly just the studies. And they are so powerful but so simple. But then, those two are the ones that are the most focused on the pure drawing. But then there's also attitude. I think what attitude you have plays such a big part in improvement. And if you have a bad attitude, I think you can draw again, draw 14 hours a day, and you might not really improve that much, because you have to have a growth mindset. You have to want to be better, but you also have to be positive about it. Like, you can't be defeated thinking, oh, I'll never improve, I'll never get to where I want to be. You have to look at yourself, and you have to kind of be able to say, okay, I'm not happy with where I am. I'm far away from my goals, but I accept that. I accept the way I am right now, but I'm also not gonna settle for that. I'm gonna keep working on myself. I'm gonna be 1% better every day, and every painting I make is gonna be better than the last. I really think you have to have this sort of mindset to really improve quickly. Because if you think there's nothing to improve, or you think that there's no point in trying to improve because it's gonna be so hard, you're probably just gonna subconsciously convince yourself of that, and you're gonna get stuck. So you need to keep your mind focused on where you want to go. I think that's really important, but then I also do think it's very important to, like I said, accept yourself the way you are, because we all have to start somewhere. We all are bad at things, and that's okay. That's no reason to hate yourself or think there's something wrong with you, because we've all been there. And you have to take care of yourself physically and mentally to be able to do this feat that is getting good at art, because it is a feat. It's a tough thing to do, and you can't do it while you're just angry at yourself for not being good enough, and you're just kind of bang your head against the wall, just drawing, and then feeling angry or disappointed that you're not getting to where you want to be. There's a lot of ways to practice this. I really love meditation. That helped me a lot in just settling my brain, making myself calmer and more positive. You can read books. There's a lot of really good books, there's a lot of really good books on mindset and also practical things you can do to implement this, like Atomic Habits is a really good one. And then there's also a lot of YouTube channels. Like, you don't have to read books, you can also watch YouTube channels. I really enjoy Rowena Sai. She does videos on mindset and productivity, and it's not art related at all, but it's very helpful to just learn some ways that you can have a healthier attitude towards your work, a healthy but productive attitude. I also find it really helpful to watch interviews with artists I look up to. You can find a lot of interviews on Level Up, or Bobby Chiu has done a lot of really good interviews with a lot of people that you can watch. And also, I feel like watching people you look up to speak can help you feel kind of less alone, like you're more like in this community. And it can be really inspiring and motivating. Then, of course, you can also find yourself art communities that are positive, not art communities where you tear each other down and preach the word of drawing yourself to death, but actually positive ones where you help each other out. Like, for example, my Discord server is a very nice place to be if you want to grow as an artist. There's a link below for my Patreon if you're interested. If you're interested, it's $2 a month for the lowest tier, which will get you access. And it's just a very nice little place. And attitude kind of feeds into the next thing you need, which is critical thinking. This again ties very much into observational skill as well. You just need to be able to look at your own work and be critical. And you also need to be able to look at other people's work and be critical, because you have to analyze stuff to really figure out how stuff works. If you're not analyzing and being critical, you're kind of just fumbling in the dark, in my opinion. And then finally, it's mileage. Everyone's favorite buzzword. You gotta get in the mileage. And it's true. But I have a little different take on it, which is that yes, drawing for a lot of hours is important. You have to draw to get better at drawing, like I've said. You don't have to draw 14 hours a day to improve. I know, radical, But really, you don't even have to be drawing for 8 hours a day to improve. I think the most important thing is the amount of pieces you finish. I think that's much more important than the amount of hours. If you're drawing 8 hours a day, but you're finishing one painting a month, there's something wrong there. You have to repeat the process of starting a sketch and then putting the final touches on it and calling it done. You have to repeat this process a lot and often in order to get better at this process. If you're only doing that a couple times a year, you're not really getting in enough practice. And it's so slow that you might never like get into this like flow state, and you might just kind of like keep forgetting what you were doing in your previous piece. I think it's very important to just commit to finishing pieces. They don't have to be perfect. You don't have to keep noodling on them forever. Just finish them, get them out there, and if you're not happy with them, you'll do better next time. You just need to build up your gallery, not for social media or to build your portfolio, but simply to build up this backlog of experience so you can get better in the future. And to expand on this just a little bit, I think this process of building up your mileage works the best when you combine fun pieces like illustrations with studies. So you do an illustration, and whatever you're struggling with on that one, you go and do a photo study, and then you take whatever you learned in that photo study and you go back to an illustration. So if you kind of flip back and forth between those, you can really improve rapidly. And that's it. That's kind of it. That's my very condensed list of what makes up improvement. There's also other things, like I think you should be also practicing your ability to give feedback to others. You should be like, there's other stuff that goes into being a professional artist and improving as a professional artist. Like, you also have to be a good person. You have to be able to write a good email, etc. But this is like, if you're just drawing, wanting to get better at creating nice images, this is, I think, the most important things. And above all else, just having that mindset of better with every piece. That's really, I think, what's gotten me through most of what I've done. It's just better with every piece. If you make something you're not happy with, it's okay. You will do better next time. Not because you're not worthy if you're not doing good work. Again, this is something I feel like kind of gets misconstrued sometimes. Like, you can be unhappy with your work and you can take the piss out of your own work and you can admit that you're not good and that you did a thing that wasn't good, and you can do that without it being like this horrible negative thing. I think we can be honest with ourselves when we do something that we don't think is good and say that without it being such a big deal. We can fail at things and it can be okay, and popular successful artists can fail at things and that's okay too. Like, the first step to making progress in anything, any sort of endeavor, is to look within yourself and just admit that I don't know. Like, none of us knows how to do everything. And especially in art, like I've said a million times, there's no skill ceiling. Like, there's no point where you stop learning and you know everything. So there's always going to be things in our work that we're unhappy with. But the first step to improving those aspects is to just admit that, hey, this thing is kind of bad and I don't know how to fix it yet, but I'm going to go and work on it and I'm going to improve. And I think that's the thing you can do, and it can be completely healthy and devoid of like this weird self-loathing that a lot of us do in regards to our art. I think it can be a completely positive thing to just say, hey, this is kind of bad and I don't know how to fix it yet, but I'm gonna go and try anyway. Like I said this in my previous video, my Saggers video, and I'll say it again here. This painting, while I think it's really cool, I'm actually very happy with the amount of progress I made, and that's not something I can say often. I think this painting turned out really cool, and I think that because I worked so hard on it. This took me 19 hours, which is more than I would usually spend at a personal piece right now, because I do have a full-time job. So this was a big investment, but I really just tried my hardest because I really just wanted to show, I really wanted to see how much I had improved. And I look at the final result and I think I did improve a bunch, and I'm very happy because I know how much work went into getting here. But then there's also some things that I'm not happy with, like the rendering in some places I don't think is great. I think the overall composition with the background maybe isn't what I wanted, and there's just things like that that I'm just not happy with. But then it's just okay, I put that into the backlog. Get better at backgrounds. Next time, watch your rendering more. Next time, watch the value structure more early on. And like by patching up all these little holes along the way, that's how you will keep just rising in your skill level. And you can do that. You can look at your work and be critical without it being terrible. Like I said, I'm very happy with this, but there are some things I would like to improve. And I think that's really like the crux of it all. Being happy with things, but also knowing not just that you need to improve, but knowing, like having the observational skills and the critical thinking to be able to pinpoint exactly where you want to improve now. Because it's very overwhelming to just think, I'm bad, I need to get better at everything because I'm bad. Like you can't do that, because that's just, it's overwhelming. You're gonna feel defeated. It's terrible. You need to look at things and be like, okay, I did this well, but then this part is the weakest link, so I'm gonna work on the weakest link first and just slowly patch up from there, because you need to tackle it piece by piece, and not all at once, because you can't. So, all that being said, what I would encourage you to do if you've been feeling stuck in your art, which I think, honestly, like I think most of us feel like we're kind of stagnating, or we have been experiencing that feeling, because just the nature of the past year has kind of made things difficult and slow. So if you're feeling that way, I would encourage you to take an old piece that you really loved at the time, something that you were really happy with maybe 3 years ago. Take that piece and try to redraw it. Try to find all the things about the old one that wasn't working and change that in the new one, and then really just give it your all. Just like don't settle for having things in there that you know are bad. Try your best to really push it, and really look at reference, look at how other people paint, and really commit yourself to trying your best, but also commit yourself to actually finishing it. There is a point, I think, in most paintings where you could always work on it for 5 more hours, but you always need to get to the stage where you're just like, okay, I have to stop. This is now finished. I need to move on to the next thing. And you can do that more easily, I think, if you embrace the better with every painting mindset, because it makes it a bit easier to let go. But yeah, so I would encourage you to do that. And if you do that, please tag me in your results when you post it, because I would love to see all you guys' work. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is a topic I'm pretty passionate about, so I could probably go on for a few more hours, but I will leave it here, not make this video too long. Again, if you would like to join a community of people who are all trying to get better, and if you would like to talk to me personally about improvements, the link for my Patreon is down in the description. I also give out some resources that can possibly, hopefully, help you improve in a technical sense. So do check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!